Hi everyone! Welcome to my weekly reading wrap-up, and this is going to be the wrap-up for the weeks between October 8th and October 22nd. Those 2 weeks were pretty busy for me. I went on a very short trip to Montreal that was for work, and that completely took my weekend out. And even though I took the train to Montreal, which was awesome because I could read on the train, still I did not read as much as I hoped I would within those 2 weeks. So let's just get on with it. So this is going to be a very short video. The first book that I read within those 2 weeks was one of those palette cleansers that I like to do once in a while. It was a Kindle romance standalone novel, which I did not really like because even though the writing was okay, the characters left me completely indifferent. I couldn't wait to finish that book, and I'll just provide the link down below. Just please be aware that it has mature content. But I liked the cover and I liked the blurb, and the book has pretty high rating on Goodreads, but for me it just wasn't working. The next book that I read was actually the book that I started reading on the train to Montreal and also finished reading it on the way back, and that was Dividing Eden by Jolie Charbonneau. Hope I'm not butchering that. This is the first book in a duology, I believe, young adult fantasy series, and I liked this book. However, I ended up giving it only 3 stars because I had some issues with the character development. I think that the characters were not fully fleshed out, and at some point, even though the author began kind of strongly, very quickly went into the realm of cliches and sort of predictability when it comes to plot. This is a story about 2 siblings, 2 twins, who never thought that they would be in succession to the throne, but because their father and elder brother are killed and their mother suffers from basically a bout of madness, they have to be, one of them has to become the king or the queen of their country. But since they are twins, neither can claim the throne, therefore there is a trial that either of them has to pass. There are certain aspects in this book that I really liked. For example, the fact that there is electricity and there are windmills in this story, in this fantasy world. There are also some sort of magical creatures that haunt this world and the country, and I liked those aspects. However, the characters were not as unique and fleshed out as I thought that they would be. I also felt that the conflict in the story should have moved in a different direction. Basically, we have 2 twins at some point competing with each other, and this felt really unnatural. It was supposed to be like that, and they were supposed to be playing against each other, but the way that things developed by the end of the book was just not sitting very well with me. I had problems with it on a personal level because I'm a very loyal person, and when there is a question of loyalty, and when you think of someone whom you have known for your whole life and who's your sibling, your brother or your sister or your parent or someone whom you've known all of your life, I thought that this type of conflict is less, I mean, it's plausible, it definitely can happen in real life as well, but for me it just was very unsettling, and for me personally it was just not something that I could identify with. Very unpleasant and unnerving to read almost. I liked the book nevertheless. I felt that there were some certain cliches that could have been avoided, but this is a book, I believe this is a debut novel. This was one of my most anticipated reads for the summer, and I started this book thinking that it would blow me away for some reason. I don't know why, but I had very high expectations, probably just based on this little blurb at the top which says 2 siblings, 1 crown, a battle that neither can win, and I just really like the cover. I think the cover is stunning, and I don't know, I just had a lot of expectations, and the book started really strongly for me, but then it just went downhill. I'm looking forward to reading book number 2 because I cannot wait to see how this conflict is going to be resolved. And I do like some of the characters, not everyone, but I do like some of them. But like I said, it's just the conflict in the story really unsettled me on a personal level. But I felt that the world was interesting enough, so I'm definitely going to continue, and I know that the book number 2 is coming out next summer. And the last but definitely not least is the book that I actually read this morning, and technically it should not be in this wrap-up, but whatever. So this is You're All Jealous of My Jetpack by Tom Gold. This is... I've been meaning to read a book by Tom Gold for a while. So he's a quite well-known cartoonist and a comic writer and illustrator. He posts his comics online on Instagram, and also he works for The Guardian and the New York Times, so his comics are featured there as well. I see them a lot. He did the cover for one of the editions of The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. I still want to get that edition just because of that cover. He produced a couple of books, and one of his most recent books, Baking with Kafka, came out in October, and I really wanted to pick it up, but then I decided just to go and get it from the library, and they had You're All Jealous of My Jetpack, which is one of his previous releases, and this is just the collection of comics. Every single page is just one comic. Most of them have to do with literature, playing with different tropes, making fun of society, and they're just so delightful. I was reading this book in the morning while having coffee and just laughing and laughing and laughing. I can show you some of my favorites. Well, first of all, the title one, You're All Jealous of My Jetpack, is just, look at this one. Then there's fragments of Dickens' lost novel and Megalosaurus Progress, which is so typical for the Dickens novel. I mean, seriously, like, for example, the great author considers his response to the question, sweeping generalization, insult, bizarre metaphor, yes, no, straightforward answer, enigmatic smile, rant, unrelated anecdote, stunning insight, joke. So this just... his work is very much on point and hilarious. Most of it is a very sort of dry British humor. Absolutely hilarious. He makes fun of culture, of literature a lot, and I just loved it. I gave this book 4 stars, only 4, because I felt that the comics at the beginning were stronger than the ones that were at the end of the book. But that was my personal opinion. I love his comics. He has a very distinctive style and very, very witty humor, which I always appreciate. And I cannot wait to get my hands on other books by him. I'm still waiting on the one which is called Goliath, and I'm waiting on the Baking with Kafka as well. Yes, definitely check him out if you haven't seen him anywhere online, or I don't know, just go to the library, because I got my copy from the library, as you can tell. And yeah, definitely recommend. Well, this is everything that I read in those 2 weeks. One of the reasons being that I have 2 other books that I hope that I would have finished by now. One of them was also one of those gay romances that I started reading. I read 2/3 of it and got stuck at some point when I realized that the plot was not going in the way that I hoped it would go. So, need to finish that one, and I'm still reading Arrowwood by Mick Finlay. I'm almost 1/2 into the book, and I'm suffering through it. It's not a bad book, it's well written, but it's just such a slow pace, and it's not a very thick book. It's only 360 pages. I should have been done with it by now. I don't know why it's taken me so long, but if you have never heard of Arrowwood, this is a debut novel by Mick Finlay, and he, I believe, is a professor of psychology, and he wrote a book about a detective in Victorian London who is sort of like not exactly an antagonist to Sherlock Holmes, but he's more like a Sherlock Holmes for a lower classes of society. And here it says, London society takes its problems to Sherlock Holmes, everyone else goes to Arrowwood. I have a bit of a problem with some of the characters and the very slow narration, but I still want to finish it. Hopefully I will be able to do it today because the book is overdue to the library. Yes, I'm a book hoarder. I'm sorry. Okay, this is it. This is all of my bookish and reading updates. Please let me know down below if you read any of the books that I mentioned, and I'll see you very soon. Bye! Okay, let's get on with it. I don't have much time. Or this summer. I'm not even sure when this book came out, actually. And the next, but